Well, hello and welcome to Campaign Against Arms Trade's short workshop on disrupting online arms fairs. My name is Kirsten Bayes. I'm CAAT's local outreach coordinator. I've been protesting arms fairs since, 2003, and I've been volunteering with CAAT since 2011. I'm now a member of the CAAT staff. Well, it's great that you can join us. Before we get started, this is a cut down version of a much longer program. Nevertheless, we hope you'll find it useful and will sign up to the full program or use other training events that we have online. Okay, let's get started. So today we'll be asking, what is an arms fair and why is disrupting them important? We'll be identifying who benefits from an arms fair, the so-called stakeholders, and what they want from it, their objectives. We'll be working out what resources they need to make the arms fair happen. And we'll be working out options for disrupting those objectives or resources and looking at some worked examples. First up, what is an arms fair? Well, they take many forms, but usually they're a gathering of arms companies, arms buyers, military personnel, and government decision makers. They're a key part of the international trade in weapons that's responsible for conflict, oppression, and corruption around the world. An individual arms fair might have a particular focus, perhaps procurement, perhaps focusing on land warfare or air warfare. But arms sales rely on trust, and buyers like to physically inspect the merchandise and meet face to face. So arms fairs frequently have displays of weapons and equipment and often have entertainment laid on. But what's also true is that many of these fairs have been progressively moving online. And so if we want to campaign against them, we need to find new ways of resisting them. So why disrupt an online arms fair at all? If everything is happening online, what harm is being done? Well, arms fairs are taking place increasingly virtually, and many of the harms they create are still being created. Arms buyers and sellers are still being networked together. Repressive regimes are still being invited, gaining legitimacy and kudos. Backdoor access to government ministers and military officials is still being sold, and arms deals are still being made. So the harms they create are still happening. So if we're working out how to respond, we need to think about who is running the fair, what it is we're disrupting, and what are their goals, noting that we don't want them to meet their goals. So in other words, what are the goals we don't want them to meet? Starting with who, arms fairs are intended to meet the needs of a bunch of different people, the so-called stakeholders. These include the company running it, including its event managers, those attending it, the individual buyers and sellers, ministers and civil servants, and the UK government. It also extends to those running the website, even doing the logistics if an event has a real-world element. For example, sometimes ministers give a talk from a podium or such. Who films it? Who does the sound? Who built the podium? Everyone has a role in putting on an arms fair, and they're all being paid. So there are many moving parts to an online arms fair, broken down into three main categories. The organizations doing it, for example, the event company, the website host, and social media companies. The people doing it, for example, the people hosting the sessions, the moderators, people who might be managing the kind of virtual meeting rooms, the kind of virtual stands, celebrity speakers, and also the systems they use, things like the booking system or the vetting system. Really, if any one of these falls over, the arms fair will be unsuccessful. The arms dealing that could have happened will be disrupted or delayed, and the conflict, oppression, and corruption that it would have caused reduced. For example, if the arms fair advertises a celebrity speaker and they don't show, perhaps because of pressure from activists, that will mean a number of people who've booked a ticket will be unhappy. If the booking system doesn't work, the arms fair won't make money or may not even have any attendees. That's quite the problem for the arms fair organisers. Each of these moving parts is involved for a reason. These goals may be for organizations, building a brand, perhaps, making a profit, growing a business. For the individuals, it might be career success, personal reputation, or financial reward. And for the IT systems and the people running them, they want the tickets to be issued, the filming to be reliably screened, the event to be secure from hackers and easy to use. If you can stop these goals being achieved, even if the arms fair itself goes ahead, it might mean it doesn't happen this time. Or it might be that the wider goals that it's trying to make happen, like selling weapons, creating chaos, don't happen. So let's see what this looks like with a couple of examples. The first example comes from the Policing and Security Arms Fair, and it's based on a video from a government minister, Kit Malthouse. This government minister, he's encouraging people to attend the arms fair. As we're watching it, consider, why is he making the video? Maybe it's a favour to the organisers. Maybe he wants to raise his profile in the sector. Maybe he wants to see a successful event promoting trade. Let's watch it.
Friends, I had such a fantastic time at last year's Security and Policing exhibition that I could not believe it when they told me I was the first policing minister in 39 years to actually visit the thing. It was an incredible afternoon when my eyes were opened to the possibilities of assistance that technology can give to policing now and in the future. And that's why it's extremely important that you step forward and register for next year's exhibition, the 40th year, not least because I will be there again, albeit virtually this time, but because crime is ever evolving and the criminals are getting more and more, shall we say, ingenious about the way they prosecute their appalling activities, and we need to stay one step ahead of them, and we need your help to do that. But in particular, the COVID disaster has had a huge impact on crime, shifted quite a lot of activity into the online world and into the virtual world, and enhanced police's desire to embrace technology. So we'll be doing the exhibition virtually for a start. But secondly, also, it means that I, as the person in government charged with making sure that the police are match fit for the future, will be on the lookout for the exciting developments and the great technologies which can help us apprehend criminals into the future. So please come on board with the exhibition. I'm looking forward to seeing you all when it comes around next March, in the hope that we can continue to stand shoulder to shoulder in fighting crime here and across the world.
So London CAAT saw the video and wanted to disrupt it. They wanted to present the event not as a positive thing that people should go to, but as a terrible thing that people should want to see ended. So let's watch their video instead.
Friends, my name is Tobias Mortimer Sloan MP and I'm the Minister for State Repression and Overseas Brutality. I had such a great time at the Security and Policing Arms Fair last year, I couldn't believe I was the first such minister to attend in 30 years. Something to do with distancing the politicians from the human rights abuses. But with COVID-19, we really need the exports. So if you are from a country of human rights concerns, your attendance at the fair is no barrier. Quite the opposite. You could join the countries like Bahrain and the UAE, who are the last one. It's all about 3 R's. Resilience. As those pesky democracy activists occupy a social centre, you need riot shields and batons resilient enough to put them in a van. All of which Britain will be very happy to sell to you. Recovery. Those activists need a prison cell to recover in and think about the evil social justice ways. This is the prison British companies can be running for you. Rebuild. As they rebuild their lives after release, why not track the phones with our advanced British software and bring them in for torture, questioning. So you should come. We will see you there.
Welcome back. You'll have noticed that whereas the ministerial talk was quite the advertising spiel, and to put it mildly, glossed over the impact of selling security equipment to repressive countries, the humorous presentation tells the story about the fair. It tells the truth. It shares facts as a news ticker. but it keeps the amped up style of the original video for parody purposes, because the original video was, well, worthy of parody. In our second example, it relates to the DPRTE Arms Fair. During the peak of the COVID event, this particular Arms Fair moved online, and it's normally hosted in Farnborough. Local group Greater Rushmore Against War, Farnborough's part of Greater Rushmore, decided to carry out an outreach event physically at the Rushmore Council offices. The reason they chose these offices is because the council licenses events, including arms fairs, and they wanted to change perceptions. They took the opportunity of the fact that actually the arms fair wasn't coming to town that year. So in other words, the only people who'd be meeting and greeting the councillors, the mayor, the MPs would be them. So they thought, right, let's take that chance. They were joined by some 15 local activists from different groups who helped host their event. They timed the meeting and they located their stalls and managed to speak to the mayor, key councillors, as well as drivers and walkers, many of whom were hearing about the arms trade for the first time. This despite the fact that there are in fact a dozen or so arms companies in the town. Many of the people they were talking to, councillors, were saying, well, they'd actually been invited to the arms companies, but they knew nothing about the impact on Yemen or Palestine. And so they really appreciated hearing from the activists in a good way about what's going on. As well as putting across their points, it expanded the size of Greater Rushmore Against War and meant that they reached out to a whole new audience. When considering how to resist these fairs, some of the thinking has been done for us. Linked in the description is Gene Sharp's 198 methods. Dating from 1973, these methods have been used to promote democracy and resist tyranny around the world. Let's take a closer look. These are simply the top headings for the 198 methods, but they include methods of nonviolent protests, like symbolic protests and public assemblies, methods of economic non-cooperation, like boycotts and strikes, political non-cooperation, so for example, a refusal to cooperate with government or its agents, social non-cooperation, like disinviting people to events, so go to the arms fair, you don't get invited to the opera, a non-violent intervention, like physical intervention or economic interventions. When we look at the list of non-violent interventions, we could probably these days add technological interventions. Those with technical skills might consider website hacking, affecting the running of a website, replacing its messages, personal computer or phone hacking, online impersonation, denial of service, phone phreaking, which is influencing the public telephone system, location tracking, and camera hacking. It's worth bearing in mind that some or all of these options may be illegal. Nevertheless, they're part of the toolkit of online resistance. And of course, these tools are used by governments against activists. So let's bring it together. What have we learned? The first thing is choose an area to focus. Work out what the arms fair is trying to accomplish in that area. Stop it accomplishing these objectives, either by disrupting the activity or by creating positive alternatives. And some final thoughts. You need to focus. Even online, arms fairs are big events. To resist everything is to resist nothing. It's often easier to disrupt the communications and public affairs around an arms fair than the technology of the fair itself. Arms fairs are complex entities. Even if one area fails, that can be enough to delay or end the event. And remember the personal. Individuals have objectives, and stopping them using an arms fair to meet their goals is as important as hitting the profits, say, of a big corporation. So thank you for being with us on this short program. We look forward to seeing you at one of our events soon, whether online or face-to-face. And if you'd like to support our work, your donation would be much appreciated. Thank you.